Hello everyone, my name is Brendan Marr, and that noise you're hearing is my ventilator. And welcome to Page Turners They Were Not, my Star Wars podcast. Today, I would like to give my feelings on digital recreation of dead actors, as well as the digital process of de-aging, particularly as they pertain to Star Wars. So, let's jump right in. In Rogue One, a Star Wars story, we have the return of Grand Moff Tarkin, or Governor Tarkin, as he's referred to. Tarkin was played in the original Star Wars film by the legendary actor Peter Cushing. Peter Cushing died 25 years ago, but they wanted this character to be in the movie. Now, one of the problems of this is that instead of recasting, they decided they would have an actor stand in and digitally recreate Tarkin's face. Now, this is a very interesting situation. Most people, or at least a good number of them, have complained that this is some of the worst CGI they've ever seen. In fact, it's even been ranked in some of those online lists of bad movie CGI. I disagree. I think it actually looked pretty good, all things considered. I think the biggest problem with any of these digital masks is we still have not perfected the art of the mouth movement and making it look natural. That's always been a little weird. But I like the look of Tarkin. It is distracting. To a degree, and that is a problem. It's got the uncanny valley. The uncanny valley is when a being, a doll, a digital recreation, something like that, looks human enough, but just slightly off. It's like looking at those creepy looking baby dolls, where they look almost human, but just off, that our brain immediately responds with disgust. Unfortunately, this is the situation with Tarkin. For most people, where there is kind of our brains go, something's not right here. And I think it is a distraction. Now, I thought it looked okay. Because let's face it, Peter Cushing was always an odd-looking man anyway. Very kind of skull-faced. Now, I would have preferred an actor. The actor who plays him in Rogue One, Guy Henry, actually probably would have been just fine, just him. Maybe a little makeup, give him a Peter Cushing-like look. But he looks close enough. And it wouldn't really matter because we have not seen Tarkin on screen. When Rogue One came out, it had been 39 years since we had seen Tarkin on screen. Now, the average film goer is not necessarily as invested in the character of Wilhuff Tarkin as some of the nutty fans like myself are. So if he had been a different actor, I don't think the average person would have cared. I don't think most of the fans would have cared. I know that some fans may have been a little weird about it because the story takes place, you know, like days before the events of A New Hope. But I think it had been long enough that recasting would have been fine. Now, the reason I mention this, let me detour just for a moment. After Carrie Fisher's unfortunate passing, there had been a lot of discussion about what were they going to do with Leia in The Rise of Skywalker. I would have been fine if they had just moved on with the story without her. And I know that some fans felt passionately that moving on without her would have been an insult. I understand that point of view. So the question was, were they going to recast? Were they going to do a digital recreation like they did with Tarkin? Those are basically the two options. Or the third option is mention that she died, or some kind of, you know, she's off screen doing something, or say in the somewhere in the film that she had died, or something like that, for Princess Leia. All three were bad ideas, I think. Let me explain. I'm okay with the recasting of Tarkin, but not okay with recasting of Princess Leia. And here's why. Peter Cushing has been dead for 25 years. Tarkin had not been seen on screen at the time of Rogue One in 39 years. Recasting him would not have been a distraction because the average person, and even the average fan, would have been like, oh, well, okay, it's Tarkin. The reason I did not want them to recast Princess Leia is because Carrie Fisher had just died, like, you know, just died a few years ago. And having a different actress as her would have been also distracting. They would have been drawing lots of comparisons. There would have been a distraction. I don't think people would have paid much attention to her dialogue or anything like that because they'd be too focused on, weird, this is a new actress. So the reason for me is time. Because Peter Cushing had been dead for a long time, and it had been a long time since we've seen Tarkin, it wouldn't have bothered me if they had recast. But because Leia, we had just seen Carrie Fisher as Leia, I think that would have been a distraction. I'm also very happy that they decided not to digital recreate her, because it was distracting and it caused a lot of trouble for Star Wars fans and moviegoers to see this CGI Tarkin. I'm also glad that they are not just moving on Well, I would have been fine if they'd moved on. If, however, they had said, like in the opening crawl, Princess Leia's died, I would have been upset. That would have been kind of dumb. I would have been fine with them moving on without it, though I do know a couple of people online who claim that that would be the ultimate insult just to move on. So when they announced that they're going to use previously unused footage that was filmed for the other two movies, not only was it a case of, I didn't think of that, but it was also basically the best possible scenario there could be. So I am glad that they did not recast. But as I've said, I would have been fine with recasting of Tarkin. Also, there is a whole ethical debate about resurrecting people using CGI. Gladiator, they did it in just one scene. By the way, if you hear these online reports about, oh yeah, Oliver Reed was recreated using CGI in Gladiator. As far as I can tell, it was one scene. Anyhow, that's a whole different debate right now, but the ethics are questionable, I think. Now, this brings me to the digital de-aging. Now, Princess Leia at the end of Rogue One, I think that looked awful. And I don't think it was Carrie Fisher. It was somebody standing in and they did the CGI face. It looked terrible. It looked horrendous. At least in my opinion. You may not agree, and that's fine. So that one, they didn't even need to show her face. I think we would have figured it out. You show the back of her head. She's got the buns for hair. She's got the outfit. Yeah, it's like... Or just leave that scene out completely, but I think it looked pretty bad. Now, this brings us really quickly to digital de-aging. For the most part, I don't think digital de-aging works very well. I think in general, it's distracting. In general, I would prefer if they cast a younger actor to play the part. Or use makeup. There are ways to make people look more youthful with makeup. And just like when in most movies, when they want to age somebody up, they use makeup, and usually that looks great. So I would prefer that they not do the digital aging, de-aging, or make them look older. But this is not a one-size-fits-all rule. Because, let's say, for example, in, I believe it was Captain America Civil War, you see a digitally de-aged Robert Downey Jr. I didn't even notice. And that's a good sign. When they do it, when the visual effects artists do it in a way that you as an audience member don't even notice, then they've done their job. Also, the beginning of Ant-Man. The scene in the 80s when Hank Pym resigns from S.H.I.E.L.D. They digitally de-aged Michael Douglas, and I didn't notice. I thought, oh, it's Michael Douglas. I didn't even think about it. They did their job right. But this has not always worked. So I would prefer that they not. But it's not a one-size-fits-all rule. You do what works. But I think with the case of Rogue One, I think they should have just recast those characters. Recast Tarkin, and then I think they could have just left out the scene with the younger Leia. So those are my thoughts on the digital age that we're in. It's pretty amazing what we can do. But sometimes, to quote Dr. Malcolm from Jurassic Park, you were so preoccupied that you could, that you didn't stop to think if you should. So, it's an interesting conundrum, and those are my thoughts on it. So my name is Brendan Marr. That noise you're hearing is my ventilator, and thank you so much for tuning in to Page Turners They Were Not, my Star Wars podcast. May the Force be with you.